Anna, and this is a new episode of Project Co, the podcast channel of Efecto Colibrí, a channel inspired by words that start with co, community, consciousness, co-creation, co-evolution, and of course, colibrí, which in Spanish means hummingbird. We have honest conversations with changemakers to explore mindsets and initiatives for positive change. The stories we tell and the stories we listen to have the power to regenerate our perception of ourselves and others. Stories regenerate. This is why at Efecto Colibrí, we produce and distribute podcast content to inspire you to create a more human reality in harmony with planet Earth. Discover more at www.efectocolibri.com. Adolescence is a transformative time, a bridge between childhood and adulthood that holds incredible potential but often comes with significant challenges. Around the world, puberty can mark a turning point when opportunities for girls begin to shrink and their rights face critical threats. In today's episode, we explore these issues and the empowering solutions making a difference. I'm honored to be joined by Alison Nakamura Neter, Executive Director of ZanaAfrica. This remarkable organization provides adolescent girls in Kenya with essential tools to navigate puberty safely, reclaim their potential, and rewrite their futures. Stay tuned as we dive into this inspiring conversation. Alison, welcome to Proyecto Co. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm truly honored.
I'm really excited to get to know more about your work at ZanaAfrica. What is ZanaAfrica? Please introduce your work to our audience.
Yeah, so ZanaAfrica is an organization based in Nairobi, Kenya. And the mission of our organization is to support adolescents, specifically adolescent girls, on their journey through puberty. Something that we acknowledge at ZanaAfrica is that, for girls, this time of adolescence is a time when girls' worlds really begin to kind of contract while boys' worlds begin to expand. So for many girls in Kenya, rather than adolescence being this time of hope and opportunity, it's really a time when many vulnerabilities and challenges arise. And so ZanaAfrica exists to support girls during this time. And we do so by providing reproductive health and rights education, as well as sanitary pads and access to reproductive health services through an AI chatbot and telephone operator.
Wow. How did you end up there?
So let's see. So I actually started my career working in corporate public relations. So I did not start doing this work, right out of college. But in my heart, I always cared very much so about, people who are marginalized, people who are vulnerable. My mother really instilled those kind of values in me. And it's always been important to me. That saying, I think it's, to whom much is given, much is expected. And so I felt like, if I was coming from a place of, relative comfort, and I have an education and I have this capacity to be able to give back, I wanted to do so for my career. A lot of people do that in their volunteer time, which is fantastic. But for me, as we spend so much time at our desks and so much time working, I really wanted to do something that was going to give back to the world and contribute to making meaningful change. So I started in corporate communications. I ended up getting a master's degree in social work about 10 years into my career. So when I was about 30 years old, I went on to get a master's degree. And I've been doing this kind of social impact work, particularly in the women and girls space, for the past 16 years, which is really exciting. Yeah. So it was just, prior to my work at Zana, I worked for an organization that did anti-sex trafficking work. For women and girls in Cambodia. I've worked in New York City doing anti-poverty and anti-hunger work, which also, 9 times out of 10 is impacting girls and women and families. So yeah, that's just been my journey, and it's been a really rewarding one. I've now been at ZanaAfrica for 9 years. So it's been half of my social impact career, and it's been fabulous because I really believe in the work that we're doing.
Thank you so much for sharing, Alison. This is really incredible, no? And it reminds me of the tendency that I have been noticing of more and more people saying that they want to become part of the change that they want to see in society, no? And therefore, the social impact ecosystem and social innovation, social justice ecosystem and movement becoming bigger and stronger. And I wonder, how did it affect you as a human being? Have you felt more happy, or what kind of changes have you experienced since you decided to change the focus of your work?
It was the best decision I ever made, honestly. While I think that if I had kind of gone on this very traditional path, I just feel that it has made such a difference to me in my life from a personal and professional perspective to know that the work that I am doing is contributing to social good. There's so much in this world that contributes to the destruction of our society. And it's evident in so many systems and spaces. And making this decision has been game changing for me. And it started out incrementally. It wasn't like all of a sudden I was like, oh, I'm not going to work in public relations anymore, in corporate communications. All of a sudden I'm going to become a social worker and, put on my social justice hat. I had to do a lot of self-exploration and a lot of kind of my own personal journey to get to that space. So there was at one point that I wanted to do direct service work, working directly with individuals. And when I did my master's in social work training, I was able to generate that experience. But I found because I had this kind of corporate communications background, I wanted to pair that with my social justice hat and do more macro level work. So for some people who might want to get into this field, maybe the right space is that for them to do one-on-one direct work. Maybe they can get into policy change. Maybe they get into macro level change. Maybe they can get into education, whatever that is. I think it takes time, and you need to really identify how you want to contribute, for those people who do want to change.
So, the thing you had clear, and it was clear since the beginning, is that you wanted to contribute, no? So that you were interested in society.
Yeah. From as a small child, but I think that's from my mom. When we were young, she always made a point to remind us of what we had, and remind us that it's important to give back, and remind us of the suffering of others. She's a nurse, and she actually just retired. She's in her 70s and she's thriving. She's retired playing pickleball, has a boyfriend. She's happy. And when she was young, she actually worked in the southern part of the US in a very it was this thing that was run by the government. It was called VISTA, Volunteer Service for America. And so after she graduated from high school, she went on to become a volunteer and, do this service work with the US government, where she worked in I don't know if you're familiar with this area called Appalachia, which is in the southern part of the US. And it's to this day a very impoverished region. And so she was there doing service work, getting people connected to healthcare. And when she kind of told me about her life, those moments in her life always seemed to be the most meaningful and create the most sense of purpose in her life. And hearing those stories really inspired me to want to give back.
Yes, so thank you to your mother, and thank you to all the mothers that are being such an inspiration, no?
Truly. I mean, I think women just do so much, and they take on so much, and they guide so much, and they do it with such fluidity, and with no matter how challenging things get. I think it's that oftentimes women are able to just carry so much and do so much and pass on so much wisdom without directly saying it, right? It's just what we watch and what we learn, which is so beautiful. And I hope to be able to do that for my son.
Because I think what you just said, no, about women being generous and women doing change for all of us, no, and not just for ourselves. Do you think this is related to having to go through very difficult times, no? As in connecting it to the work that you're doing, no, at ZanaAfrica. Because it's very interesting the way you framed it, no? Like when going through puberty, through being these adolescent years, we start to, as women, we start to face challenges, no? While the men start to grow and to flourish. Do you think these struggles may be connected to the fact that we become more generous? Well, no, I don't want to compare, no, but
yeah, it's hard to say. I think like for anyone, so great challenges always create strength and resilience. Hopefully, right? Hopefully that's the outcome of a great challenge. Um, and I think globally, women, because of patriarchy, because of all these different systems, I think that women face more challenges than men, and perhaps it's those struggles that make us more resilient and make us more. And not to say that men aren't resilient. I love men, and I think they can be so giving and wonderful. But there's so many systems and cultural norms and ways of being that have held women back. And perhaps to your point, Anna, maybe that is what creates that kind of generosity and grace that many women are able to have and to give to others. And what's interesting about Zana is that, the organization was founded by a woman. We have a majority of women on our staff. We have wonderful men who are working for our organization. I think about two full-time male staffers, and a male consultant. And then the rest of it is women. And it's women, in majority of Kenyan women. I would say 90% of our staff is Kenyan. And then I would say 95% of our staff is Kenyan. And then we have two Americans working for the organization. And there's that universality of being a woman. I think that if, no matter where you are as a woman going through puberty, you can relate to another woman. And, remembering the first time you had your period, remembering, maybe perhaps confusion going through puberty, or feeling, threatened while you're, walking down the street or something on a dark night, and you're scared, for your safety. And that's not often necessarily something that a man would go through.
No, to go back to what you were saying, yes, I'm glad to hear that people and more people are understanding it, no? Because there's also like a big shift that I'm noticing of many men coming on board with a more feminist perspective, no?
Yeah.
This is interesting. Are you experiencing that too?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Yes, I mean, it's hard to say because I work in the social impact sector, and then my friends and family who I choose to be around have like a very feminist mindset. It's challenging because if you look at changes in our administration in the U.S. that are happening, you would perhaps say that no, culture is going back and becoming less feminist and less caring about women and girls. So it's hard. I think I'm seeing more men and boys who support our work and who identify as feminists really getting it. But I think there's still so much, we're up against so much in terms of these cultural norms, particularly in the US around reproductive health and rights. So much is going to be rolled back for us in the US in the next 4 to 6 months, which is really challenging and shocking. So it's hard for me to say. I mean, I know at Zana, one of the key things we really focus on is not only educating adolescent girls, but also educating boys. And we have some wonderful, wonderful male teachers we're doing a teacher training right now. So we have a 25-part curriculum that we've developed that covers everything from the basics of puberty to, really heavy topics like sexual and gender-based violence. And, we talk about, the reproductive system and all of these things. And so we're training teachers right now to deliver this health education to students in classrooms. And so we have some really fabulous male teachers who really get it, and they want to be like a beacon of hope in their communities and ensure that, their daughters, their nieces, their, friends' children are able to get this education, but more so that the boys are getting this education too, because we cannot have gender equity if both boys and girls are not educated on human rights, on consent, on equality. So I think while there are changes that still need to happen, I do see seeds of hope in, the work that we're doing at Zana, or there's other really wonderful organizations that I follow that are educating boys and men to do better and to think more from an equitable lens, and to think about gender equity.
Yeah. Because which would you say are the main challenges adolescent girls face in your from your experience?
Yeah, so in Kenya, so 2 in 3 girls in Kenya cannot access sanitary pads or menstrual products due to price and availability. So you have that products, that kind of period pop. 40% of teen girls who are between the ages of 15 and 17 are pregnant or have begun childbearing.
Oh, wow.
Girls' HIV prevalence is 4 times that of boys. And 10% of transactional sex, so transactional sex for commodities, is for sanitary pads. In one community that we work in Kilifi, this was several years ago when we did a research study, the average age of sexual debut or, first sexual intercourse was 12 years old, and it was unwanted. Gender-based violence is prevalent in Kenya, as it is in many communities. So we're really up against these kind of social norms that say, it's okay for a man to beat a woman. It's okay, it's okay for these things to happen to women and girls, and it's fundamentally not okay. And so the education and the work that we're trying to do at ZanaAfrica is to really change those norms. And what's exciting is that we have done a really significant research study that was funded by the Gates Foundation that tested our intervention. So we have this intervention of rights-based reproductive health education. We deliver it with sanitary pads. I know you won't be able to see this, but there are NIA pads, and we have these magazines that also go with it. So this is social and behavior change communications content. So these serve as like a textbook that go with the curriculum. And so we tested this intervention on 3,400 girls. And what we found is that if a girl goes through this program, she will, over a period of 18 months, it will be statistically proven that she will improve her reproductive health and rights knowledge. She will improve her sense of confidence and resilience and sense of agency. And her whole conception of gender norms shifts to become more equitable. So those are huge outcomes to have in a very short period of time. And by kind of engaging girls at this moment of puberty when their body's starting to change, giving them the products that they need, then opens up this kind of safe space for them. And we always call it like the gateway to ask these questions about their health and their rights. Is it appropriate that a male teacher touched my breast? Is that appropriate or not? Right. So my father beat my mother because he burned the rice. Like, that's not okay, right? So really looking at these normative behaviors that have been accepted, in many communities, and really trying to make those changes to let girls and boys know that, we can do better, and women and girls deserve better.
It's very inspiring. No, congratulations for your work. It's super important. And there I was wondering, like, have you seen many changes? You said you were working in ZanaAfrica for 9 years, no? Have you seen social cultural shifts?
I mean, I think when I first started working at ZanaAfrica, there was this big movement globally around addressing period poverty. So, girls need more access to sanitary pads. Like, that was not something I had ever heard about prior to like 2014. Like, I never even thought about, could a girl not have access to sanitary pads? That's crazy. So there was this whole movement around menstrual health and ensuring that period poverty was addressed globally. And what's really interesting, and a lot of people don't know this, is that Kenya was actually the first country in the world to abolish the tampon tax. So to abolish the value-added tax that are on menstrual products. Kenya was the first country to do that. They were the first country also to write sanitary pads into their education budget. So like when the government was budgeting for pencils and paper, they were also budgeting for sanitary pads that would then get distributed for free. There have been challenges with pad distribution and allocation, which is where an organization like ZanaAfrica steps in to ensure that girls have these products through school programs, etc. But I have seen, like, since I started at Zana, you see that kind of movement happening in the period poverty space, and there's a huge movement of actors and different stakeholders working in ZanaAfrica, and members of the government and members of different coalitions that are really trying to advance gender equity. But, it's a slow moving process. It's like with any social movement, it takes global actors to do this work together. So I think, slowly we're seeing more and more change happen.
Could you share us like a story of a case of or something that you're super proud of?
Gosh, ZanaAfrica has grown so much in the time that we've all been working together. But I would say the biggest things I'm proud of, and then I can share like some quotes from girls, which I think are really compelling. But the biggest thing that I'm proud of is the fact that we have this research that proves our intervention. So this is an intervention. So like the content that we've created, these magazines, everything we have done has been through listening to girls. And we always do focus group testing. We, iteratively and co-create our content, our health education content, obviously with experts from public health and doctors and gynecologists and utilizing best practice. But we also listen to girls about what it is you want to know about, we embed comics into all of our content. So I know that the audience can't see this, but we have these amazing comics that are designed by Kenyan illustrators, women who are creating this content. So we've been able to not slowly, but develop this content over time to then have it tested and proven with the support of the Gates Foundation. They funded this research to have that data to say, hey, these changes can happen, to me is incredibly powerful. I think that we've seen qualitatively and through our experiences of listening to and learning from girls, we've heard their stories and listened to them and seen with our own eyes, but also having that data is really going to help to push things forward. So I'm really, really proud of that. That I would say that's first and foremost. The second thing I'm really proud of is that we are now in a partnership with the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development to train teachers on our reproductive health and rights curriculum. So we are taking content from our curriculum, training teachers to deliver this, and they will then integrate it into classrooms. So our goal by 2026 is to reach 200,000 adolescents. So that's in the next 2 years. Because we have this proven intervention, we have a partnership with a government agency, and now we're co-creating this teacher training to really make a difference in the lives of young people. So I'm very proud of that. And then I would also say, we've just launched over the past year and a half this AI chatbot, and it's called Nia Health Link. If you have access to you don't need a smartphone. You can have just like a dumb phone or a basic mobile phone. We have a chatbot that you can contact to get support and real-time referrals. So if you were in a situation of domestic violence, if you needed information about missed periods, whatever that is, whatever question you have, you can contact, get immediate support and referrals. If you are not comfortable messaging with someone, you can also call, and we have hotline operators that will refer you directly to the services that you need. So there was a situation recently where a woman, this is really horrible, her child was sexually assaulted by someone in their community, and she called the hotline and was immediately able to get connected to the authorities, and that person was arrested. So there was a whole feedback loop of like critical support that rallied around this person, and that she felt safe enough to contact that operator to say, this thing happened to my child. I need help right now. What do I do? And she knew she was going to be able to talk to a safe person. That made all the difference in the world. So I'm really, really proud of that we're also leveraging kind of technology, but also that human connection, which I think we all need and is sometimes missing from our lives. So,
wow, this is amazing. Eh? Congratulations.
It's amazing. It truly is. And there's, because the Kenyan government had identified something they call the triple threat, which is sexual and gender-based violence, teen pregnancy, and STDs, right? And HIV. And they said ZanaAfrica is this one county in Homa Bay County, which is in like the Lake region. They had shared this with the Kenya Star newspaper, saying that they believe that the Nia Health Link is the solution to combating this triple threat of teen pregnancy, sexual and gender-based violence, and STDs and HIV. So, Kenya's a really mobile, the mobile saturation rate is huge. Like everybody has connection to mobile, more so than in the States. And the fact that we were kind of meeting people where they are, I think can really help them.
So. Totally. Going back to where we started, no? We were talking about generosity and women being generous, people with those values, no, of giving. What can we do as society to support you and your work at ZanaAfrica?
Thank you. That's such a nice question. Thank you so much. So I would say, one of the first things you can do is you check out our work, go to our website. It's ZanaAfrica.org, so ZANA Africa.org. If you're interested in kind of hearing from the girls that we serve or hearing from the teachers that we're training, we have all of these beautiful videos that we've recently created that are in the stories section of our website. So that's a really great way to learn about what we're doing. You can sign up for our newsletter. We send out about monthly newsletters to keep people posted. And then, of course, as we're a nonprofit organization, we rely on the generosity of others to support our efforts and to ensure that girls can get the products that they need, that we are able to train these teachers and make what we believe will be generational change and really advancing gender equity. We really rely on the generosity of others. So if you're able to make a contribution to support our work, we would be so grateful.
And that brings us to the end of this inspiring conversation with Alison Nakamura Neter from ZanaAfrica. We have learned about the transformative work empowering adolescent girls in Kenya through reproductive health education, access to sanitary products, and innovative tools like AI chatbots and teacher training programs. Alison's journey reminds us of the importance of addressing period poverty and promoting gender equity as a collective effort. Thank you, Alison, for sharing your insights and for the incredible work you do. Thank you for listening to this episode. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. You can find all the references of the episode on our website, www.efectocolibri.com/proyectoco. If you liked it, rate us with 5 stars, leave us a comment, and share it with your network. This will help us reach more people and make social innovation become the norm. So in advance, a big thank you. If you have questions, feedback, or want to introduce us to a guest for the podcast, you can write us directly at anna@efectocolibri.com. See you next time.